What you're about to witness breaks even the best pianists in the world, Rachmaninoff's Third Concerto. 40 minutes of music so brutal it has ended performances mid-stage. Hands seize, memory fractures, entire passages collapse in front of thousands. The physical toll alone pushes forearm muscles to 35% of their maximum voluntary load, and that's before the mental pressure even begins. Why is this one piece feared more than any other? Why do even elite pianists lose control here? And what makes this concerto almost impossible to survive live? It all traces back to one man and to a pair of hands unlike any the piano world has ever seen. Almost unnatural, Sergei Rachmaninoff's hand. From thumb to little finger, the span measures just over 300 millimeters. Most concert pianists, even the greats, top out at 228. Rachmaninoff's reach eclipsed them all. He could press a 12th 12 white keys without strain. The average pianist strains at a 10th, and most cannot even touch that. But for Rachmaninoff, this was the starting point, not the limit. His fingers were long, but it was the hand's width and the way his palm opened that set him apart. Photographs from the 19-teens show him at the keyboard, hands draped over the keys like they belonged to a different species. In 1905, a mould was taken of his right hand, 10 centimeters from thumb to pinky, fully extended, place that cast beside a standard pianist's, and the difference is almost grotesque. It is not just size, it is the way he used it. Rachmaninoff wrote in his diary that he relies on the natural weight of his forearm to produce sonorous tone without excessive finger force. He did not jab at the keys. He let the whole arm drop, channeling gravity into the piano. This was not a trick, it was a necessity. The opening of the Third Concerto demands octave doubling right out of the gate, with the right hand stretching a ninth, while the left hand leaps through 10-note arpeggios. For most, the hand cramps. For Rachmaninoff, the movement was fluid, almost lazy. In the first movement's climax, the right hand hammers out 6 note chords that span a 10th, while the left hand leaps a 12th. These are not flourishes, they are structural, embedded in the DNA of the concerto. The original manuscript even shows fingerings that only make sense for a hand this size, thumb and fifth finger landing simultaneously on notes other pianists have to roll or cheat. Modern editions keep these fingerings, but for most players they are impossible without pain or compromise. Biomechanical studies confirm what pianists have whispered for generations. For hands below 250 millimeters, the most notorious passages become a contest with physics itself. Motion capture analysis shows that smaller-handed pianists must twist, roll, or break the line, burning energy just to keep up with what came naturally to Rachmaninoff. The concerto rewards brute reach, but it demands a technique built on arm weight, not finger agility. The wrist must stay supple, the arm heavy, otherwise the chords collapse, the sound shrivels, and the illusion of power vanishes. The hand cast remains, silent and unyielding. It is not just a relic, it is a warning. Rachmaninoff did not design his music for the average pianist. He built it for his own anatomy, for a body that could span the impossible. Every technical terror in the Third Concerto is a fingerprint of this reach, a physical fact cast in plaster that still haunts the world's best pianists. The score for Rachmaninoff's Third Concerto is littered with markings that look almost innocent until you try to play them. In the first edition, published in 1910, his own fingerings appear in black ink, curling above the notes like a dare. A thumb and fifth finger on a 10th, a single hand leaping a 12th, a left hand forced to anchor a chord while the right hand explodes into a rapid-fire run. These are not suggestions. They are the stubborn blueprint of a body that could do what most cannot. Rachmaninoff wrote the concerto not as a puzzle for the masses, but as a second skin for himself. The original score preserves his choices. Fingerings that only make sense if your hand can span the distance without strain, if your palm can flatten and flex with the weight of a sledgehammer and the touch of a feather. Editorial notes from the Moscow manuscript spell it out, with the words, "Use arm weight" scrawled above a cluster of low register chords, and the words keep wrist loose beside a passage of rolled harmonies. He was not trying to be cryptic. He was writing down what worked for his own anatomy, as if the piano were an extension of his bones. Every page of the concerto is haunted by these physical signatures. The famous cadenza, in the second movement for instance, demands the pianist strike octaves and triplets at once, a feat that forces most hands to roll or break the chord. Rachmaninoff's own notation, using the thumb and pinky to anchor the outer notes, while the middle fingers dart across the inner voices, only works if your hand is built like his. For everyone else, the choice is clear: cheat or risk injury. Modern editions keep these original fingerings almost as a warning. They are relics of a body that could do the impossible, fossilized in print. Pianists who open the score find themselves staring at a map designed for someone else's landscape. The technical demands are not accidents. They are the residue of Rachmaninoff's reach, his arm weight, his unique physiology. The result is a piece that does not just test skill. It punishes anatomy. It exposes the limits of flesh and bone. And for every pianist who sits down to play it, the message is the same. This music was built for one body. Everyone else must find their own way through the wreckage. Vladimir Horowitz steps onto the stage at Carnegie Hall in 1930, the air already thick with anticipation. Every seat is filled, the hall packed beyond capacity, ushers forced to turn people away at the doors. The program says Rachmaninoff's Third Piano Concerto. Whispers ripple through the crowd. Even for New York, this is a gamble. Horowitz is young, barely known outside Europe, but the rumor has spread he's chosen the monster. He sits, hands hovering above the keys. The orchestra waits, the conductor glances over, and then with no warning, Horowitz attacks the opening with a precision that feels almost violent. The first octave run lands like a thunderclap. Critics later write that the sound was like steel wrapped in velvet. As the first movement barrels forward, the technical demands grow more savage. 6-note chords hammered out at full speed, right hand leaping a tenth, left hand clawing at the bass. The cadenza arrives, a passage so dense and rapid that even Rachmaninoff himself once joked it was for elephants, not pianists. Horowitz doesn't just survive it, he bends it to his will, driving the tempo faster, hands a blur, sweat beading on his forehead as he throws his entire body into the keyboard. In the balcony, a woman faints. In the front row, an old critic drops his program, stunned. Halfway through the finale, the audience is no longer breathing. The orchestra strains to keep up. The last descending run crashes down, and for a moment there's only silence, then an eruption. The applause is immediate, volcanic, spilling over the edge of the stage. Reviewers call it a feat of superhuman endurance. Backstage, Horowitz collapses into a chair, hands trembling. Rachmaninoff himself, who attended the performance, is rumoured to have muttered, "He plays it better than I do." The next morning, New York newspapers print headlines that read more like boxing results than concert reviews. Horowitz conquers the impossible. Letters pour in from pianists around the world. The myth is born, not just of a piece that tests skill, but of a piece that can break you, unless you fight back with everything you have. In a single night, Rachmaninoff's third stops being just a concerto. It becomes the ultimate trial by fire. From this point on, every pianist who dares to play it knows the stakes: survive or be exposed. The fear spreads quietly at first, through the cracked spines of old scores, whispered in the corners of conservatory studios, passed from teacher to student like a family warning. It is not just Horowitz's legend that does it. The reputation of Rachmaninoff's Third seeps into the bloodstream of the piano world, infecting entire generations. Professors in Moscow, New York and Vienna tell their students, respect the monster. Some say, avoid it until your hands are ready. Others, more blunt, warn, you may never be ready at all. In lessons, a young pianist stares at the cadenza, hands hovering in mid-air, as the teacher quietly suggests a cut, shortening the passage, rolling the chords, anything to survive. Even the bravest sometimes surrender to the knife. In the 1950s, a flurry of published editions started printing cadenza A, the abbreviated version, right alongside the original. By the 1970s, competition rules sometimes allowed the cut, an unspoken admission that the full cadenza was a death sentence for most. The unabridged cadenza, with its endless octave cascades and impossible leaps, became a badge of honor only the boldest dared to wear. Recordings tell their own story. In the first decades after the concerto's premiere, only a handful of pianists even attempted to record it. Sales numbers from the 1930s and 40s show Rachmaninoff's second outselling the third by 4-1. The third's reputation grew in the shadows, not through popularity, but through the growing list of those who failed to conquer it. Each collapse on stage, each trembling hand in rehearsal, added another layer to the legend. Pedagogues began to map the score like a minefield, circling the death zones, the double octave runs, the cadenza, the finale's relentless coda. In masterclasses, stories circulate of hands cramping mid-performance, of wrists swelling after weeks of practice. Teachers swap survival strategies, slow practice, re-fingering, rolling chords that were never meant to be rolled. Some even advise skipping the piece altogether until a pianist has survived Tchaikovsky and Prokofiev. The lore grows, thickening with every retelling. The myth is now woven into the training itself. Students approach the third with dread, not just because of the notes, but because of what the piece demands of their bodies and minds. It is not just a test of skill, it is a test of nerve, of endurance, of the willingness to risk public collapse. And for every pianist who dares to open the score, the warning is clear: you are not just playing music, you are stepping into the teeth of the legend. The next section will dissect the anatomy of that danger, the precise technical traps that have broken so many before. Places in the score where even the bravest hands start to break down. Teachers call them death zones. These are not just hard bars, they are traps engineered for collapse. The first comes early, barely 20 seconds in, a torrent of double octaves in measures 24 to 29. The right hand barrels through rapid fire chords, each leap a 10th, then a 12th, then back again. It is not just about speed, the stretch is inhuman. Most pianists can barely reach the interval, let alone hurl it across the keyboard at 112 beats per minute. The left hand tries to anchor, but the distance is so wide that fingers slip, notes blur, and the clean line Rachmaninoff demands turns to chaos. This is where the first cracks appear, where even the best start to sweat. The next death zone waits in the heart of the first movement, the cadenza. Measures 288 to 340 form a gauntlet of octave cascades and left-hand tremolos. Here, the pianist is alone. The orchestra drops out, leaving nothing but the naked sound of hands scrambling for control. The right hand must fire off octave after octave, while the left hand trembles at a speed that burns the forearm. There is no place to hide. Horowitz called it music for elephants, but even he admitted to rolling some of the chords, cheating the stretch just to survive. The original fingering, thumb to pinky on a 10th, is a dare only a giant can accept. For everyone else, the choice is brutal: break the chord or risk breaking your hand. Then comes the finale coda, measures 210 to 240. 32 bars of perpetual motion, 30-second note runs that never let up, hammered out at a tempo that pushes the body past endurance. Here, the interval leaps span the entire keyboard, the right hand darting from the lowest bass to the highest treble in a matter of seconds. The left hand tries to keep up, but fatigue sets in, accuracy falters, and memory slips. This is where most pianists lose control. The orchestra surges, the hall grows hot, and the margin for error shrinks to nothing. A single missed note, a moment's hesitation, and the whole structure can collapse. It is not just about technical skill anymore, it is about survival. Pedagogues have mapped these zones in red ink, circling them in masterclass scores and warning students, this is where the concerto turns against you. In these passages, the demands are so extreme, stretch, speed, memory, balance, that even a flawless run in the practice room means nothing under the glare of stage lights. The score does not care about reputation. It does not care about past victories. It asks one question: can you hold on? These death zones are not accidents. They are the fingerprints of Rachmaninoff's own anatomy, his reach, his weight, his impossible span. For most, they are the edge of disaster. For a few, they are the line between legend and defeat. The rest of the concerto circles these traps, but it is here, in these bars, that the myth is made real. The danger is not just in the notes. It is in what happens when the body gives out, when the mind falters, and the music keeps going. Practice for Rachmaninoff's third is not just hours at the keyboard, it is a daily assault on muscles, nerves, and memory. In the weeks before a performance, sleep shrinks to 3 or 4 hours a night. Fingers ache from slow-motion drills, wrists throb from endless repetitions. The cadenza alone demands ritualized, slow practice at half speed, day after day, until the hands are numb, and the mind is haunted by the same passage on an endless loop. Physiological studies, though rare, come close to capturing the cost. Elite pianists, pushing through the concerto's most punishing stretches, register an average of 35% of their maximal voluntary contraction in the forearm flexors, a level more often seen in endurance athletes than musicians. After a full run-through, blood lactate levels spike to 2.3 times the baseline. The body responds as if it has survived a hard interval workout, not a concert. Muscles burn, tendons stiffen, and the fatigue lingers for hours. Daniil Trifonov calls it a mirror that shows every flaw. I felt my nerves crack at the first cadenza. Yefim Bronfman remembers a night when his wrist popped a tendon during the finale. You cannot ignore the bodily cost. Lang Lang admits, I keep thinking my hands will slip, especially in the second movement's rapid arpeggios. It is a mental battle every time. In rehearsal diaries, the confessions pile up. One pianist writes of hands trembling so badly he cannot hold a cup after practice. Another describes episodes of tremor and a racing heartbeat during the final run-throughs. Sleep deprivation becomes routine. The mind loops the death zones late into the night, measuring every stretch, every leap, every memory cue that could fail under pressure. The obsession is visible in the way fingers are stretched, iced, and massaged between sessions. Some wear compression sleeves to stave off swelling. Others schedule physiotherapy as part of their daily routine, just to keep the hands working. It is not rare for a pianist to train for months, only to pull out days before the concert, tendons too inflamed to risk the stage. The fear of public collapse is always present. Every ache carries the threat of disaster. The mental strain is just as real. Studies on performance anxiety show cortisol levels and heart rates spiking before the first note. Memory slips become more likely as the body tires. The music demands not just recall, but absolute control. One missed note, one faltering leap, and the entire illusion shatters. Rachmaninoff's third does not just punish the body, it wears down the mind, exposing cracks that no amount of practice can fully seal. Yet for some, the pain becomes a gauntlet and a badge. The sweat, the injuries, the confessions, they are proof you have survived the gauntlet. But the cost is always there, lurking beneath every triumphant performance. For every standing ovation, there is a story of hands that bled, nerves that failed, nights spent staring at the ceiling, haunted by the thought, will my body hold out when it matters most? The opening bars pass in a blur, octave runs, a stretch that aches, the orchestra swelling behind. The first death zone approaches. Fingers tremble, sweat beads on the forehead, and the memory of every sleepless night presses down at once. Measure 29. The right hand leaps, but the chord fractures. A single note slips. The music stutters. For a heartbeat, nothing moves. Silence seeps into the cracks. The orchestra freezes, bows suspended mid-air. In the audience, hundreds of faces stare forward, waiting for the sound to return. But the pianist's hands hover, paralyzed above the keys. The mind races. Where was the entry? Did the left hand miss the cue? The score unravels in the mind's eye, measures dissolving into white noise. Seconds pass. The silence grows heavier, each heartbeat louder than the last. This is the nightmare. Not a wrong note, not a stumble, but the moment when the mind blanks and the body refuses to obey. The pianist's breath comes shallow, the hall's hush turning into a kind of accusation. At the International Tchaikovsky competition in 2022, Anna Petrova reached this point and could not go on. Her voice, small but steady, broke the silence. "I cannot finish. The concerto is physically beyond what I can sustain." She stood, hands shaking, and left the stage. The applause that followed was hesitant, uncertain, a ritual to fill the void. The withdrawal spread through the music world in hours. Social media echoed her words. "Physically beyond what I can sustain." No one mocked, no one blamed. Every pianist who has ever faced Rachmaninoff's third knew exactly what she meant. The silence after a collapse is not just the absence of music, it is the sound of fear realized, of every worst-case scenario made real in front of strangers, judges, and peers. In these moments, the concerto does not just test skill or willpower, it reveals how close even the best can come to the edge. The cost is public and irreversible. For those who have not experienced it, the silence after a collapse seems endless, a single minute stretched into eternity. The legend of Rachmaninoff's third is not built on triumph alone. It is built on these moments of exposed humanity, where the music stops and leaves the pianist utterly alone. The collapse is never just a private wound. When a pianist falters in Rachmaninoff's third, the fallout ripples outward through the concert hall, across news feeds, into the bloodstream of the music world. In the hours after Anna Petrova withdrew, she said she was physically beyond what she could sustain, and that phrase spread with the speed of a scandal. Pianists posted messages of solidarity, but beneath the sympathy was a silent calculation. It could have been me. The shame is public, replayed in slow motion, dissected by strangers who have never felt their own hands fail under the lights. Music performance. Anxiety is not just a footnote in the literature. Studies show that 60 to 70% of elite pianists experience symptoms severe enough to threaten their careers. The risk of a public breakdown at a major competition is estimated to hover around 12% for works at the outer edge of difficulty, and Rachmaninoff's third leads that list. The numbers are cold, but the reality is raw. A single collapse can haunt a pianist for years, shadowing every audition, every review. Some never recover. A 2018 survey of competition alumni found that 1 in 5 who suffered a major onstage failure in Rachmaninoff's third never returned to the concerto. The fear does not just end careers, it rewires them. A psychologist who treats concert musicians describes the aftermath as a kind of trauma. The mind loops the moment of silence, the hands frozen above the keys, the audience waiting for a sound that never comes. Social media amplifies the humiliation. Clips circulate, hashtags trend, and the pianist's name becomes a cautionary tale. Friends and strangers alike weigh in, some offering comfort, others dissecting every gesture, every decision. The concerto's legend grows with each collapse, feeding on the spectacle of failure. But the real danger is not just the risk of a missed note or a lost memory. It is the way the piece strips away every defense. A performance psychologist says that Rachmaninoff's third does not just challenge you, it reveals you. The stakes are absolute. There is no safety net. To play it is to stand exposed, nerves raw, knowing that the next mistake could be the one that ends everything. In this world, survival is not guaranteed. The line between triumph and breakdown is razor thin. The applause after a successful performance is thunderous, but the silence after a collapse is even louder. For every pianist who walks off the stage intact, there are dozens who carry the scars, some visible, some hidden. The concerto asks a simple, brutal question. How much of yourself are you willing to risk for music that might break you? Daniil Trifonov steps into the glare, the air charged with the weight of past failures and victories. The orchestra waits, bows raised, but all eyes are on him. He hovers above the keys, the opening phrase barely audible, fragile and tense. The audience holds its breath. They know the dangers ahead, the cadenza that has humbled legends, the finale's punishing sprint. Even the best have faltered here. The first movement surges forward. Trifonov's hands blur through double octave runs, every gesture precise, every muscle ready for the next challenge. The cadenza arrives, a storm of sound, octaves and tremolos colliding. His hands stretch, land and hold, no stumble, no hesitation. The sound is huge, clear and unyielding. In the front rows, faces tighten, and in the balcony a program crumples in a clenched fist. Trifonov's gaze never wavers. The orchestra returns, the music swells, but he's already through the fire. He hasn't just survived, he's owned it. The second movement offers no escape. The melody floats above a relentless tremolo, each note balanced between exhaustion and exhilaration. Sweat beads at Trifonov's temple, but his playing never falters. The finale erupts. Arpeggios race across the keyboard, hands darting, every run faster, more daring. The coda arrives. 32 bars, a sprint through chaos. The tempo pushes forward, the orchestra strains to keep pace, and for a moment the music threatens to break apart, but Trifonov holds steady. The final chord lands heavy and absolute. A long silence follows. Then the hall explodes, applause crashing in waves, people rising before the last note fades. Trifonov bows, hands trembling, a stunned smile flickering. Critics call it survival, not just virtuosity. For a moment, the legend seems conquerable, the monster faced, the myth tamed. But as the ovation continues, the question lingers. How many can do this and walk away whole? Tonight, Trifonov stands on the right side of that line. The hope endures, the concerto can be survived, and maybe mastered. Rachmaninoff's third remains a test that never loses its edge. Its reputation might seem like a relic from the days of Horowitz and Richter, but the numbers tell another story. Over the past 2 decades, the concerto has appeared in about 15% of final rounds at the world's most prestigious piano competitions. At the Van Cliburn, it is chosen nearly 1 in every 5 finals. The Tchaikovsky, the Queen Elizabeth, the Chopin, at each, the same question lingers. Will someone brave Rachmaninoff's third? Programming statistics reveal the ongoing tension. When the piece is announced for a final, the atmosphere shifts. Competitors weigh the gamble. Some see a shot at immortality, others sense a trap. Professors argue in private, is it fair to program a work meant for hands larger than most pianists possess? Is it a test of artistry, or a punishing ordeal that exposes the limits of the body? The debate is constant. Some call it the summit of the repertoire, others a public trial by fire, a piece that can end a career as easily as it can launch one. The legend endures not only because of the technical demands, but through stories whispered backstage, hands that seized up, wrists that failed, memory lapses that erased years of preparation in a moment. Every new collapse is dissected in conservatories, replayed in masterclasses, shared online for thousands to analyze. The myth feeds itself. The more the piece is feared, the more it is programmed as a test. The more it is programmed, the more the fear grows. The cycle is unbroken. Evgeny Kissin, whose performances have set standards, once reflected, "The concerto forces you to be honest with yourself. You feel every mistake amplified." In that honesty lies the real legacy of Rachmaninoff's third. It is not just a test of speed or strength, but a mirror for the performer's soul. Every flaw, every doubt, every hesitation is exposed. The concerto demands complete honesty and punishes anything less. For every pianist who survives, many are changed. Some never return. Others are drawn back, unable to let go. The fear endures because the risk is real, collapse is woven into the music and the culture around it. The question remains, why do the world's best keep returning to a piece that can break them? And what does it reveal about those who dare? Right now, this concerto still stalks the world's greatest stages, unforgiving, relentless, waiting for the next pianist to step into its jaws. In every performance, the stakes are survival. The myth only grows because fear keeps it alive. No one escapes unchanged. For those who dare, the risk is total exposure. That's why, over a century later, the terror of these 40 minutes still decides who truly belongs. What would you risk to cross that line?